So, Tom, this has got to be one of the most interesting elections in American history.
Well, about the election, I'm feeling a lot better than I was 10 days ago.
Yeah, me too. Did you see Letterman last night? Suspending your camera? What is he going to do with his president? Suspend his presidency?
That whole business.
Usual. For those of you wondering what the order of business are, you can see those. See the table there. There are agendas there. I see those signs back there. I have 20/20 vision, but I can't read them, so no sense holding them up. But we will begin with item number 1 on the agenda: act of reverence and pledge allegiance to the flag. Led by Commissioner Powell. To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Item number 2 on the agenda are the acceptance of the minutes from August 28, 2008. Commissioners should have received these minutes in their packets that went out 2 weeks ago. I'll entertain a motion to approve the business meeting minutes from August 28th.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Powell. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Campos. Any questions, comments, concerns, changes, or deletions to the minutes of August 28th, 2008? Hearing none, all those in favor of accepting the minutes from August 28th, please say aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. The minutes are approved. We now will go to, as you know, at each board meeting we have a brief. I'm sorry. Yes, Commissioner Powell.
I should have mentioned this before. On the very bottom of the first page of the minutes, it indicates that Resolution 159 for Encompass is being forwarded to the board without recommendation. That's not what I said. What I said was that because the board did not have, or because the committee had tabled it, I reported out that the committee had tabled it.
Right.
And not that we had voted to forward it without recommendation. If it's not too late to get a
That's
vote
fine.
to...
Is there any objections to changing that to because the committee had tabled it and not that it was approved without recommendation? Okay?
No objection.
It's fine. The clerk will correct those in the minutes. Anything else around that? Okay. We will move on to our student recognition. As you know, we do student recognitions every month, and we are proud to hear from students about their trip to China in 2008. I will say that Commissioner Campbell is headed to China tomorrow, so this will be a tutorial for all of us. So I guess we'll come down to the front row and we'll hear the 10-minute presentation.
Okay, I'll kick things off. A representative from the group Americans Promoting Study Abroad contacted our district this past February with a plan to send 5 of our students, along with 5 students from Washington, D.C. public schools, to study Chinese in Beijing this past summer. The program had 3 key objectives. 1, to improve U.S.-China relations by offering students an opportunity to reach across cultural boundaries and learn about education in China. 2, increase U.S. competitiveness by educating young Americans about China, inspiring them to study foreign languages and learn about the world beyond the U.S. And 3rd, expand international study opportunities by offering experience overseas to American students who would otherwise not be able to study abroad. Here to introduce the students is Mr. David Baez, Director of Foreign Languages.
Thank you very much. We had a very long presentation to make today, but we have to be brief. And this was a vision, a dream, and it became a reality because of the efforts of several individuals, some of whom we'll meet a little later. But I want to, without any further ado, introduce you to the 5 students that went to had the opportunity to go to China and study in Beijing for 5 weeks. They studied the Chinese language and they were immersed in the culture. It was a scholarship. The only thing they had to pay for was their passports. So, first I want to introduce you to the chaperone, who is one of our administrators, the administrator of ESL, Mr. Jay Piper. He accompanied the students, and he was just as giddy of being selected to go because it brought him back to China where he had spent several years of his younger life. Well, first of all, my extreme right, Lila Eaton from School of the Arts. Katie Tiedemann from East High School. Joseph Santiago from one of the College Board schools. Juliana Turner from School of the Arts. And Daniel Hagan from School Without Walls. I will now let Dan begin the presentation.
Hello, my name is Daniel Hagan. I like to have fun. I had plenty of meaningful experiences in China. The people were amazing, hospitable as can be. They would run up to you on a bus or a train and just want to speak English with you and have you speak Chinese back and just practice. It was wonderful. The culture was amazing. I took a liking to the delicacies. This one being dog. Very good. Very good. Don't judge it. Amazing. Needless to say. But not only did this program, open me up to a new experience across the world and give a kid from Rochester a chance to go to China for free, which has always been one of my life wants. So that was great. But food was amazing, people, of course. But when I first heard about it, it was an excuse to go to China for free. I was like, yeah. But then I got there, I started learning the language, and I fell in love. It was something that, I was decent at, and I enjoyed. Yet again, the people really helped, along with the chaperones. But I don't know, I loved it. It gave me a path, something I can start onto towards college, something I can just keep going with, which is something I didn't have before I went on this trip. Yeah. And you should continue the program.
Ni Min Hao, Wo Jiao Taizhu, and I was also allowed to go on this wonderful trip to China, and the experiences there were just amazing, and mostly the culture and being able to meet the people was the most impactful thing that happened to me. My most memorable moment was at the orphanage that we got to go to and meet disabled children, and this really has given me a path to go on when I go to college and study Chinese and continue with Chinese studies. 谢谢.
Ni Min Hao, Wo Jiao Sheng Yue. My name is Joseph Santiago. I'm one of the students who went to China. One of the most memorable memories for me was the day we went to the orphanage. I had an amazing time playing with the children. It was nice to learn about how their lives were, how they don't give up. It was nice to be with kids. It was also nice to be in a place where you were less about business and more about just learning about people.
你好，我叫伊利. I'm Lila Eaton, and I went to China this summer with everybody else. And I don't have a most memorable moment in China because I'm not gonna single something out and then diminish the rest of the importance of the trip. But it was a wonderful, life-altering whirlwind of new experiences, and I wouldn't trade any second of it. And I'm so, so, so thankful that I got to go on this trip. And It was great to be exposed to a new culture. It was great to learn a new language. It was something that I never thought that I would be able to do. And looking back on it, just it really gave me a sense of self-empowerment to show how far I can go and how much I can achieve if I really reach for it and if there are opportunities given to me. And I think it's a great opportunity that a lot of more kids should be able to have. So, 我希望中国 I miss China, and this is Kate.
I'm going to stand. 你们好，我叫Takai. Hello, my name's Katie. This is actually a picture outside of one of the temples. I was trying to learn how to play chess, and I didn't know any of the Chinese characters on the chess pieces or what they were saying, so it didn't go so well. I've since learned since I came home, which it's actually a really cool modification. Well, theirs is the original chess, but it's a really cool version of chess. My favorite part about China, not that I want to diminish the rest of it, but I really loved learning the language. I'm an artist, so I love doing Chinese characters. The calligraphy classes were amazing. But learning a language, I finally learned how to speak a language and truly understood it in my head. I always wanted to know, if you speak Spanish, do you think in Spanish or do you think in English? I was never quite sure on that, since I took Latin, and Latin's not a spoken language. So for me, finally learning Chinese, finally learning how to speak it, actually being able to go out and practice it, because you stand in an elevator and somebody says, "How are you?" You're like, "What?" You just don't understand. So I practiced because I wanted to be able to understand. I wanted to be able to go out and have those conversations. And I finally did. I had my full conversation in Chinese in an elevator, and I was very happy. So it was a great experience, and learning Chinese in the Rochester City School District would be an amazing opportunity for anybody, since it is the most commonly spoken language out there. It's something that is important, it's upcoming, and people need to realize that. So. Sorry.
There's one of the trips that we went to. We went to the Taoist Temple. It's one of the oldest temples in China. It was a real great experience that day. We're sitting on food dog, and we took a picture. And the guy all the way on the right, he's Peter Momboy, and he's from the D.C. City School District.
Okay, this is one of the Beijing Olympic signs. It obviously is translated, so I don't have to read it. But how many of you saw the Olympics? Were they fantastic or what? So basically they had these signs all over the place. They had them hanging off of skyscrapers. They were absolutely fantastic. They truly meant one world, one dream. For them, it wasn't so much, let's have the Olympics and let's have sports. Like when we have the Olympics, they were out in Colorado, I do believe, last. You know, we got excited about them, we watched them, but that was about it. In China, it was an entire sense of national pride. It was so cool to see just how the people came together to pull this off. The Olympic Village is absolutely huge and absolutely fantastic. So it was really cool. And if you guys don't know the 5 little characters above, they're the 5 different elements. And the Chinese people really thought they were cool. They all have names. So they're awesome. This is the Summer Palace. You were looking at the temple that was up on top of the hill. This is where Empress Sisi lived. And there's also a lake which had really cool boats on it. You got to go out in a Chinese-style boat, and it was a lot of fun. So.
Hello again. This was also at the Summer Palace. I saw some rocks, and a kiddish part of me came out. I was like, "Ooh, let's go climb it." So I was climbing, and I looked back, and there was 40 other Chinese people following me, and they started talking to me, and I was like, "Hey," and we started talking. It was great, and then I ended up jumping from a rock to there, and they looked as though I was crazy, and then a few, came with me, and we took pictures together, and this was actually one that Yanni took.
This is a picture that was commonly taken in all of our cameras with random Chinese people that just love taking pictures with you. They'll jump into any group photo that you're having. We had a moment when we were in the grocery store and someone came up behind and was like, and then kept walking. So it was a lot of fun. We thought that we were going to be taking pictures of them, and they were taking pictures with us. So this is a a lot of fun to have pictures of other people too.
Okay. And this is the last slide that we have of the bird's nest. It's really big and really impressive. They also hadn't finished it while we were there. We could still see the people working on top of it. We were there 4 weeks before the Olympics started, and at that time, the Olympic Village was closed off to all people, and we had a representative from Kodak actually bring us on, which was really cool, so thanks to Kodak, if any of you are employees. I don't know. But it was really cool that we got that opportunity. We got so many opportunities. We got to go to Coca-Cola headquarters. McDonald's executives came in and talked to us. We had so many opportunities, and it was truly fantastic. And
各位朋友，大家好. Hi, everyone. My name is Jay Piper, and I lived in China for 6 years. My undergraduate degree was in Chinese studies, and that allowed me the opportunity to escort these students to China. I'm grateful to David Baez and for the district for letting me go. It's an experience I'll never forget. You know, for 10 years I taught at Thomas Jefferson High School, and I always said I had the best students in the district. And 3 years ago when I became an administrator in the Rochester City School District, when people ask me what I do, I can't be prouder than to say I'm an administrator in the Rochester City School District. But traveling to China with these 5 students lifted my level of pride to a whole new level. They're wonderful students. They're wonderful role models of our district. And, you know, they met with high-ranking officials, both Chinese and American. They met with international business people and educators and leaders for non-for-profit organizations. And in all arenas, our students demonstrated respect, confidence, and poise. Language is the air we breathe. It's the water we swim in. It comes as natural as digesting our food. But for 5 weeks, these students, they breathed different air, and they swam in different waters, and they did a wonderful job. They did an excellent job. Learning a new language is also like learning a new way of thinking. And you know, if you're watching China, China has progressed. This week they've sent 3 people to the moon. Anyone who saw the Olympics know that they're a force to be reckoned with. And America needs students to learn different languages and to understand different languages so that we can remain competitive on a global market. Members of the board, I wish you could have been there with us and feel the pride that I felt. We traveled to a village called Mutianyu, and it's right near the Great Wall of China. And in Chinese, they have an expression. They say, 不到长城不做好汉. And what that means is, you don't truly become a woman or a man until you have climbed the Great Wall of China. So what we've done is, when we were at Mutianyu, parts of the walls are crumbling, and we took parts of the wall and we brought them back with us. And after you sit down, we'll give you each a little piece of the Great Wall of China. And, but also I hope that this will symbolize not only the wonder of China, but also the strength and the potential of the Rochester City School District students.
By the way, I was in China the summer before, and I climbed the Great Wall, so just in case. I wanted to put that disclaimer in. The program really doesn't end there. These students will be taking Chinese 2 afternoons a week beginning October, the first week of October, here with our Chinese teacher. And I want to introduce you to our district Chinese teacher who teaches at Nathaniel, Dr. Ming Tian. She's right here. And so she'll be with them 2 days a week for about an hour and a half to 2 hours of instruction the rest of the year. Our hope is that by the end of the year, if their proficiency level is such, we're going to have them take the Chinese Regents. And if they pass, they'll be able to get their 3 credits in an additional sequence because all of them already have studied a foreign language. So they'll have an additional sequence for their diploma. So we're so very thankful for all of you for allowing, because all of you played a part in this. The parents that are here also were a great part in the trust that they had in us. to making sure that their children were safe. So I'm going to hand it over to Mr. Broussard. Thank you very much.
And we'd like to recognize two individuals who actually helped us get this. First is Mr. Kenneth Preston, if you're here. We recognize Mr. Preston tonight because it was he who heard about the DCCU initiative and called Marilyn Patterson Grant immediately and strongly encouraged her to contact Mr. Darzinski. According to Mr. Preston, this was an opportunity we could not afford to miss. Thank you. And Mr. Michael Darzinski, who could not be here tonight, I believe one of the students would accept for him. Mr. Darzinski is being recognized for his vision and commitment to our students. It was through his efforts and hard work along with others that made it possible for our students to travel to China this past summer and have the unforgettable experience which they have shared with you tonight.
Mr. Darzinski wasn't able to be here today, but he sent his thoughts. He said, on behalf of Americans supporting study abroad, I would like to thank the Rochester City Board of Education for its support of this year's Pilot China Global Education Fellow Program. We were excited to have Rochester as a part of our pilot year and impressed with the early enthusiasm and support shown by School Board President Malik Evans and School Board Member Tom Brennan, as well as the other board members. David Byes, with the support of Marilyn Patterson Grant, and the superintendent was able to pull together the program in a remarkably short time. Finally, we also would like to thank Jay Piper and all 5 students for the incredible commitments they have made this program a success. They left lasting impressions in Beijing. We look forward to growing this invitation and invite other China projects with the school district over the next year. As a native of Rochester, I was especially proud to see such an impressive group of young people led by an equally impressive group of administrators.
Thank you.
Could my colleagues join me up front, please? We have some certificates for the students. On my way over here, actually I was in a meeting earlier and I got a message from Mike Darzinski, and I'm glad I didn't answer I'm glad I wasn't able to get the phone because I have him on the message saying that he wants to expand this program to have 20 kids come next year. And as long as Mike is going to foot the bill for it, we will take him up on that offer. This is a great program, and I'll tell you, one of the things that I am predicting is that just how I learned Spanish when I was in first grade, I think that in the future we'll start seeing many of our students learn Chinese in the first grade, and we better learn it because we owe China so much money in national debt. We better know where to send the bills to. But that's just an aside. Let me just call up each student, and you can shake the hands of my colleagues here. The Rochester Board of Education Student Achievement Recognition Award goes to Juliana Turner from SOTA for the 2008 China trip. And Lila Eaton from School of the Arts. Joseph Santiago from Northwest College Prep. Daniel Hagan from School Without Walls. And last but not least, Katie Tiedman from East High School. I got it right? Good.
If I may say something, Lila, I wanted to wave at the other camera. Lila was in a car accident last
Oh, wow.
That's why she's not sitting in the school. So I wanted just to share that with you. Why is she sitting on a chair? But she made it here. Excuse me, she made it here today, and we're so happy.
We have a lawyer on the board, so. Wow, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
I got a piece of the Berlin Wall. I added to my Thank you, sir.
This is wonderful. I appreciate it very well. Huh. Yes.
Thank you. I have a piece of the Berlin Wall, and I now have a piece of the Great Wall of China. Thank you very much. We have two speakers addressing an agenda item. Whenever we have students on the agenda, we move them up to the top of the agenda so that way they don't have to wait around. So students, I know you're here. After you're done speaking, go home and do your homework. We're trying to increase our graduation rate, so get home and get that homework done. We have two speakers, Siobhan Thomas and Xavier Guerrero, both students, and they're going to talk about the Abbott program. You will have 3 minutes. When you hear the bell, beep, 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 that means wrap it up. So Siobhan is first, and Xavier, you're second. And just say what school you go to and what grade you're in.
Lower this?
Yep, speak right into that mic.
Okay, thank you. Hi, my name is Siobhan Thomas, and I attend East High School. And I am an avid participant, and I'm here today to speak with you all and share with you the impact that Avid has had on my life as well as my education. And one of the things is that when I first got accepted into it, I was getting myself back on the right track because of my 7th grade year. When I entered middle school, I was off to a rough start because I got myself involved in a lot of, chaos, and I hung with the wrong crowds, and I wasn't doing too well in school. But after my 7th grade year, after having D's and F's on my report card, I begged my parents to put me in summer school. And from there, I started to see in summer school how well I did and how well I excelled. From there, I started having A's on every assignment that I had in summer school. And from there, I saw that, I can do this. I can make something of myself. And it turned out in my 8th grade year, after going through that year so smoothly, I was accepted to be an Avid because one of my science teachers, Miss Crawley, she saw how well I did, and she saw the endurance that I had towards school. And, she felt that that's the type of dedication and commitment that she would have liked to see in an Avid student. So therefore, I became an Avid student, and from there, I started taking my education a lot more seriously, and I made sure that, I feel that now I am my worst critic because I make sure I push myself to the limit. I don't accept anything below a B. I cannot do it. It irks me. And I'm the nerd and geek of my entire 10th grade classes. And it's I'm glad because I've had the support of Avid, and the fact that Avid has allowed me to stay organized, and with their help and support with tutorials and, the community service that we get to do, that has expanded the horizons for education to me. And now I've looked more into colleges. I've got myself involved in programs such as Upward Bound to help me further my education, and going to the U of R because I want to major in dermatology. I want to be a skin doctor. And right now I was chosen to be one of the students to go to Australia next summer. But I'm sorry.
Go ahead and finish up.
I'm sorry.
No, you're okay.
I have to raise $5,000, and I don't know how I'm gonna do it, but I'm gonna make it happen because I would love to study abroad. So I will gratefully cherish any donations that anyone would decide to give me. Because I'm really working hard towards this. Thank you.
Thank you. If we were in church, I'd do a love offering, but I'm not allowed to do it at the district headquarters. So.
Just like Siobhan, I'm also part of the AVID program. My name is Xavier Guerrero, and I joined AVID in the 8th grade after I transferred from East Irondequoit to East High. It was a very rough change, kind of scary. No one really talked to me for the first week. They all thought I was some strange new kid. You know, it's okay. And then after I got into January, then Miss Ford, most wonderful teacher ever, she came up to me and she said, "You look like you want some help and you actually want to go through school." And she said that, "Well, there's a program for kids like you." And I'm like, okay. I was so ecstatic to join. And then after that, it changed my life for the better. I'm more motivated, I'm more dedicated, more organized. Right now, I'm actually thinking that as soon as I'm done with high school, I'm going to go to college and study architectural work because I love to draw. I love designing buildings on computers. And, well, that's all I really have. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your time. Thank you. Thank you so much, and we look forward to hearing about your success in the future. We will now move on to the superintendent's report. Superintendent Brizard.
Don't have a lot today. There's much we can talk about. So, to be transparent, the AVID students were not planned. Many of our staff members at schools heard about the questions we're asking about AVID, and they, I guess, sent 2 students to talk about AVID. But just quickly, 2 issues, 2 things I'd like to bring to your attention. One is to give you a quick update on our work in literacy. As you know, it is a big piece of our work for this year in looking at creating an agenda for literacy in the district. And our wonderful new head of literacy, Connie, if you would just wave, Connie Leach. What you have in front of you is a 2-page, both-sided, two-sided page outlining a lot of the work that we're doing on elementary, secondary literacy, addressing the needs of English language learners, special education students, as well as all of the intervention programs that we're putting in place around literacy. So we do have a huge agenda this year on literacy and literacy intervention to make sure that we are all on track to pushing that agenda in the district. The second thing is a quick update, if I can find it, on our Dream Schools initiative and the fact that we are on track with our Dream School. I had a packet here, just lost it. On track with our Dream Schools piece, there it is. As you know, we selected 6 schools to be part of the Dream Schools initiative. Those are 6 schools who are in tremendous need of intervention. Many of them are schools under registration review by New York State. The work has started. We have our executive coaches, they are in place. My 2 minutes are up?
Not for you.
We have coaches, literacy and math coaches in these schools. Read 180, which is a huge literacy intervention program, is in most of these schools. So the fact is that we are pushing a lot of resources into the schools, including more guidance counselors into the Dream Schools to make sure that we're addressing the needs of all of our students in those places. The hope is that at the end of 1 year, that we'll see substantial improvement in these schools. It is really, in many ways, a last chance for many of them. We're confident that most, if not all, will do very well by the end of the school year. And that, Mr. President, is the end of my report. Last piece, is the fact that we are looking to push really an international agenda. The China is just the beginning. We have students who are going to Hawaii from Schools Without Walls Foundation to study and talk to folks who were part of the World War II issues that took place in Hawaii, visiting Pearl Harbor, etc. And they're looking to go to Israel. So if we have anyone who can help us fund that, if you're here, we'd love to hear from you. Thank you.
Thank you. We will now move on to, first off, any questions for the superintendent on his report? Okay, thank you. We will now move on to board reports, but we will start at my right with our student rep, Ms. Sarah DeLoss. Do you have a report, Ms. DeLoss?
Yes. I do.
Okay.
Good evening. The Student Leadership Congress met September 17th, and I have to say I was extremely excited. And we had 70 kids, approximately, from each of our high schools. The only schools that were not in attendance were Jefferson and I believe Northwest College Preparatory School. It's been great. We have some great ideas coming up. We've talked, Mr. Brizard was our guest speaker. The students got to ask him some questions, and he has decided that he will attend our meetings on a monthly basis to keep in contact with us. And some of the ideas that we had were just to create some partnerships, continue to do mentoring, whether it's at Wilson Commencement Park or 22 School. We were going to assist maybe in a homeless shelter, as in helping people prep food, arrange a day for high school students to attend a college or university, coordinate a job fair, and possibly some type of supplies drive. Our next meeting is October 15th. Any students out there, I would love to see you next meeting, and I hope we can continue to grow. Also, one more thing is I'm also working on a project called the Home Library Project, and I just met with Mr. Brizard. And please stand up again, Miss Leach. She is helping me with this project. Yay. And I have things for all of you. It's basically a PowerPoint and an outline of the project with 22 School. We are working on getting libraries for third graders and getting parents involved, and we're looking into a date where we can have parents come in and accept the libraries for their kids. And that concludes my report.
If I may, Sarah, it's a collaboration between the City School District and the City of Rochester, and she spearheaded the entire project. Getting libraries, bookshelves for all third graders, or I guess a couple of classes anyway, at 22 schools, and getting parents to work with their children on literacy. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you. Commissioner Williams in the Audit Committee.
Mr. Chairman, the Audit Committee met on Monday, September 22nd, and there were two primary items that we went over on our agenda. The first one was we discussed plans to review and update the Audit Committee charter, which board members should be receiving in fairly short order. We also made plans to review or really develop the charter for the Office of the Auditor General also. The primary thing that we did, or the primary agenda item on the 22nd, was the review and approval of the 2008 Risk Assessment and Audit Plan for the Auditor General. And I'd like to make a motion from the floor to accept for the board to accept the 2008-2009 Office of Auditor General Risk Assessment and Audit Plan.
The motion has been made by Commissioner Williams. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner White. Any questions, comments, or concerns around the 2008-2009 Audit Risk Assessment Plan out of the Office of Auditor General?
I'd like to only make one observation, and that is that the audit, this is more audit plan than risk assessment. There are a couple of pages 6 and 7, that talk to the fundamental components of a risk assessment. And I presume that page 7 is, because page 7 is a rank ordering of the items that need auditing in priority order, not in chronological order that we're going to attempt to do it, that represents an application of the risk criteria, but it doesn't actually show what the risk exposures are in each of those areas. So it's more audit plan than it is risk assessment.
But, well, the only thing is, if I've seen the risk assessment itself, so if any board member wants to see the actual detail, let me know. I mean, I just made a decision that it's probably something that you really don't want to go through because it really is in the weeds. But if you'd like to see it, just let me know and I'll have one over to you.
Yes, please.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions before we vote? Okay, thank you, Commissioner Powell. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The ayes have it. The Board of Education Risk Assessment and Audit Plan for 0809 is accepted. Commissioner Williams?
That concludes my report.
Thank you. Commissioner Powell and the Finance Committee.
Yes, the Finance Committee met at its usual date and time and place, September 18th. We reviewed first and foremost, we reviewed the Student Activity Funds Report, and I'd make a motion at this time that the board accept the Student Activity Funds Report.
There's a motion from Commissioner Powell to accept the Student Funds Activity Report. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner White. Any discussion around the Student Activities Funds Report? Okay, you should have all received it and reviewed it. Any question, hearing nothing else? All those in favor of accepting, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The ayes have it. Commissioner Powell.
Thank you. We also reviewed and accepted the August financial reports. You have a copy of those before you. I move that we accept the August financial reports at this time.
Motion by Commissioner Powell to accept the August financial reports. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Williams. Any discussion around the August financial reports? And again, we all received these in our board packets. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor of accepting the August financial reports, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The ayes have it. Those reports are accepted.
Thank you. We had an extremely light agenda. In addition to those things, we had resolutions 245 through 251, which were facilities. Two of them were final payments. We had one resolution on other matters. That was Resolution 253. And 252 was pulled before the Finance Committee met. Therefore, you'll find in your packet that that is listed as pulled. The next Finance Committee meeting will be October 21st. It's postponed because several of us will be in New York City for the NYSBA conference. So the rescheduled date is August 21 at 5:30 p.m. And that concludes my report.
Thank you.
Oh, I said August,
Oh, yeah.
October.
October.
Thank you. Sometimes
I wish it still was August. Oh, those dog days of summer are gone. Thank you. Questions for Commissioner Powell around the Finance Committee? Hearing none, thank you. Commissioner White and the Quality Assurance Committee.
Mr. President, the Quality Assurance Committee met on Thursday, September 11th at 5:30. We had a very lively presentation on the proposal for the expansion of the World of Inquiry High School. We had
That's what they say.
we had an opportunity to hear from a number of the parents and students at number 58 school regarding the proposed expansion. More specifically, Resolution 265 proposes the expansion of number 58 school from a K through 6 configuration. I see the little signs go up. This is where you raise them real high, from a K through 6 configuration to a K through 12 configuration. The next Quality Assurance Committee meeting is Thursday, October 9th at 5:30 p.m. Dennis Richardson, who many of you may know, who is CEO of Hillside, and his staff will make a brief presentation on the much heralded Hillside Work Scholarship Connection Program at our next meeting. All are welcome. Mr. President, that concludes my report.
Thank you, Vice President White. Commissioner Campos and the CIGR Committee.
Okay. Before I give my report, I just want to say thank you to Dr. Pringle, who's not here, but at East. She welcomed me with open arms, and I was able to sit in an administrators meeting. And I went to East. It was a couple days after the young man was shot and killed. And one of the things that they discussed in the administrators meeting was how this was a young man who had dreams of going to college, who had dreams of owning a home. And he was also someone who was a servant leader at the Freedom School. And it just really hit home for me in really putting things in perspective. But also, I want to just commend the staff at East, because the parent liaison called the family within 24 hours. The family was at the school working with the staff. The people at East have actually sent food to the family. I mean, they've just done so much for the outreach for the family, and the grief counselors that were there for the students in such a difficult time. So just keeping him in our prayers and really just keeping things in perspective. Also, my report, we did not meet in September, and that's because I was ill. And in addition to our previously mentioned initiatives that we talked about the last meeting, we're tracking the Green Schools legislation, which is in Congress, H.R. 3021. It's passed the House and has been referred to the Senate Committee on Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions. The bill provides schools with access to funding for modernization, renovation, and repair projects. It authorizes $6.4 billion for fiscal year 2009 and ensures that school districts will receive these funds for school modernization, renovation, and repair projects that improve the teaching and learning climate, student and teacher health and safety, and energy efficiency. The Act also encourages energy efficiency and the use of renewable resources in schools. And the Council of Great City Schools supports this measure, and our hope is that it will be enacted and possibly become part of the facilities modernization project. And I believe that concludes my report.
Thank you, Commissioner Campos. Commissioner Brennan and the Policy Committee.
The Policy Committee is seeking a motion. First of all, we met on the 18th. I believe it was, of this month, and the sole item on the agenda was the Policy Committee's effort to, and we'll be seeking a motion to forward today to move forward a contract with Erie One BOCES for assistance with the policy manual update. We anticipate that the contract itself will be part of a resolution at the October meeting. Materials regarding this initiative were included in your packet last Friday. We seek this motion for two primary reasons. The last wholesale adoption of the policy manual took place nearly 10 years ago. And since that time, policies have become outmoded or redundant in light of new state and federal law. There's also been reviews that needed to be taking place that weren't taking place. And the scope of this project is large enough that it would tie up at least 2 staff members full-time for the foreseeable future. It should be pointed out, though, that the Erie BOCES input is entirely advisory, not deliberative, and that the establishment of actual policy does rest and will rest with the board. This is simply an assistance in the process to take care of a long accumulating backlog. We anticipate that the review and adoption of the new manual will be a process similar to the annual budget adoption, with the Policy Committee calling meetings of the whole for review of specific sections, and this would take place in early 2009. We also expect that an amendment to 6725 responsible bidder policy would be voted out on this evening, but a resolution was not prepared for the adoption, and it will be on the board's October 23rd agenda. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Commissioner Brennan. Commissioner Powell.
2 questions. First, the authorization to engage in contract doesn't have a resolution in our packet. Is that correct? If I'd be happy to make a motion from the floor if that's what's called for at this time.
Feel free, Commissioner.
So moved.
Sure. I appreciate it. Yes. Do we have a second?
Is there a second?
Mike?
Commissioner Brennan, you second?
Sure.
Okay, second. Any discussion around Erie One BOCES other than to say that Erie One BOCES does great work, great work. When I first got on the board, someone in their infinite wisdom decided to cut school nurses from our schools, and it was BOCES that stepped up to the plate and helped us. So,
Couple questions.
very pleased. Commissioner Williams.
In the packet, I saw the write-up in the packet, but it didn't have a cost associated with it. What's the?
$8,200, I think, is that correct,
And
Commissioner
it's
Powell?
split up over 2 years, so we would pay $4,100 this year and another $4,100 in the next fiscal year.
That's a reasonable question, though. Could I just ask for my own? I'm probably missing something obvious here, but why that wasn't in the information given to the rest of the board? Was it just an oversight?
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
there will be an actual resolution next
All right.
month.
All right.
Yeah, this is
Okay.
just a preliminary
Thank you.
vote to,
So that wouldn't have been timely. Okay. Thank you.
The other question I had was, why do we have to do it all at once? And all the other cases that I've been familiar with, most policy updates are done on a rolling basis. You do either a quarter or a third each year. You do a quarter this year, quarter next year, so it's a rolling process. I mean, why can't we use that same sort of procedure, and why do we have to contract it out? I mean, why, we have 2 full-time staff people, we have, 3 people on the committee overall. I mean, why can't we do it in-house as opposed to contracting it out?
Who wants to try that first?
Commissioner Brennan?
Well, I would, because the scope of the backlog is so great.
But if you do it
And because we have not had the kind of staff assistance that I think we should have. We can get into, I'm not going to get into, here into those discussions, but, we have an extensive backlog that I think requires this kind of assistance.
But again, my point is, why do we have to do it all at once? Why can't we partition it out, which would make it a lot more
I wouldn't
palatable?
be adverse to that, except that there are policy reviews that are so overdue already that I think to drag it out gratuitously. You've mentioned all of the other cases that you're familiar with. This approach has been taken by many districts successfully, and it would seem to me if you're that far behind and you've had this does go again to our whole issue about the efficacy of committees and the relationship between committees and staffs and whether committees are adequately staffed, which we have talked about before. But I don't want to see a backlog, especially one that where there are policies that require review, not addressed as soon as possible. I think there ought to be some sense of urgency about this, and doing it on a rolling basis. What type of schedule, again, might you be comfortable with, Commissioner Williams?
Either a quarter or a third. I mean, when's the last time that the update was a policy update done?
I think Commissioner Powell's trying to want to speak to
To
this.
give you some history, the first and only, to my knowledge, wholesale update of the policy manual started in around 1996. It took Bohan Vargas several years to get it even close to a finished state, and then I finished it in 1998, my first year on the board. That is the only time the district has gone through the entire policy manual from cover to cover. There is a requirement in our policies that we do a full cover-to-cover review every so many years, and that simply has not happened. So this would allow us to update. To get directly to your question about rotating update, the BOCES one does have a strategy for going through the whole manual. It takes approximately 18 months from start to finish. So if we did do portions of it once a quarter, that is entirely feasible even within the framework of the BOCES 1. BOCES 1 has the unique credential of having crafted over 200 policy manuals for districts in New York State. 200 out of a possible 700 is a remarkable depth of experience, one of those being another of the big 5. They did the Buffalo policy manual as recently as last year. So they have credible history being able to shepherd districts through this, and they would do it in pieces. They, present them in logical chunks, even to meet that 18-month time frame.
Yeah, I'll just say I think it's very necessary for this policy manual to be updated. It hasn't been updated in a long time. It needs to be updated as soon as possible. Anything else around the policy manual and this motion that's on the floor related to motion one? And also this motion is just to allow a resolution to come at the next board meeting. So we'll actually vote on this at the next board meeting. We're not voting on the actual dollar amount or anything right now. It's just discussion.
President Evans, I would just point out that, we pretty ardently sought the attendance of a fuller range of board members, of all the board members that could have made it to the policy committee meeting, who could have actually heard the presentation from Erie BOCES, and perhaps had a lot of their misgivings addressed at that time. Regrettably, very few people did attend, and here we are.
Thank you.
One more question.
Okay,
on
one
the
more question,
policy
Commissioner
report.
Powell, then I'll...
I'm sorry.
Is it related to this motion that's on the
No, I-
floor? Okay, just let me wrap up this motion, and then I'll take any other questions around policy and let Commissioner Brennan finish his report, and then we'll move on.
My report is concluded.
Okay, so any other questions on this motion to engage Area 1 BOCES and have a resolution at the next board meeting? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Any abstentions? Okay, it's 5-1 with Commissioner Williams dissenting. Any other questions for Commissioner Brennan on policy? Commissioner Powell.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. It was my understanding that this would be the night that we would have discussion on the responsible bidder policy changes in order that we can vote on it next month, although it doesn't appear on the agenda in that fashion.
Yeah, if you wanted to bring that up under new business, or is it unfinished business? If you want to bring that up under unfinished business from the previous meeting, I'd be fine with that.
The problem was there was no resolution prepared, I am told, so.
Well, the discussion is actually about policy. We wouldn't actually, the policy adoption process is information item. We have all received a copy of the changes. Discussion item, which is handled at a business meeting, and then the action item, which happens the following business meeting, 30 days from the discussion. So if anyone remembers if we don't have a copy of the proposal in front of us, it might be a little difficult, but this would be, if we're going to vote on it next month, this is the time to have a discussion about it and relative merits of making that change.
Well, what I can say, I had presented the resolution, or the idea regarding the resolution, and it is very simple. The existing responsible bidder policy requires that I think it's the Director of Finance, make sure that the bidders who are responsible don't, for example, have outstanding workers' compensation problems. I think there are some other issues that the current responsible bidder policy told the finance director they had to look at, but what I found was conspicuously missing from those areas was directing the Director of Finance to look at whether the bidder had any outstanding determinations by the EEOC or the Human Rights Division that he or she had violated federal or state anti-employment discrimination laws. So basically, the proposed amendment is quite simple. It just basically directs that the district and its staff look at that issue. In my life as a lawyer, I've come across many bidders who are making lots of money off the public dole, but yet they have violated, according to the EEOC, a federal branch of government, and the Human Rights Division, which is a state branch of government, they have violated federal or state laws. My feeling is they probably shouldn't be receiving state money to continue on in this discrimination, or at the very least, the proposal requires that now that the district's leadership team look at that and make sure that the bidder, in order to be responsible, cleans up his act if he's got a problem. Because once again, it's the state or the feds who have made a determination in that instance that there's been some violation of federal and state laws, and my request for the proposal was simply that we start to look at that before we make a decision about whether someone's responsible or not.
All right. So if anyone wants to have any more discussion around that, being that it was brought up last meeting, I'll entertain any more comments under unfinished business for previous meetings, but...
Someone wants to clarify it.
Okay.
Just quoting from the minutes of the last meeting, it just says that this amendment is being forwarded as an information item with discussion and a vote anticipated for our September 25th meeting. but for the reasons explained. And I just want to also express my appreciation for both the effort and the patience of Commissioner White, who's been steering this issue from the very beginning. The proposal itself has a great deal of merit, I think, and he's driven it.
Thank you. Okay, Commissioner Powell.
It's sort of a point of order. I just want to underscore, once again, discussion is supposed to happen a full month before the resolution is presented. So in order for it to be proper for the resolution to come before us next month, it should be on the agenda along with the code of conduct in today's agenda.
Right. So again, we can have this discussion if anyone wishes to have it again under unfinished business from the previous meeting. I'll ask if there are any other comments, concerns, or questions around the responsible bidder policy amendment, which will come to the board next month. Thank you. Any other comments or questions for the policy committee? Okay, hearing none. I have just a very brief report. I would just mention that on October 10th, I'll be attending the Governor's Summit on Student Engagement and Dropout Prevention over at Nazareth. I'll have a report at our October meeting on what took place there. I believe Commissioner Elliott said that she was also attending that. And I'll look also to hearing from Commissioner Powell and Commissioner Williams on the New York State School Boards Association Convention in October, and I want to thank them for representing us at that very, very important convention. We pay dues to that organization, so it's good to have Rochester's voice represented as we talk about state legislation and those important items. So thank you, Commissioner Williams and Commissioner Powell, for representing us at that convention. We'll now move on to the consideration of resolutions. For those of you at home watching on TV and those of you in the audience, I'm sorry, I'm also supposed to do Commissioner Elliott's report for board governance. So let me back up before I move on. The Board Governance Committee was scheduled to meet on September 22nd. That meeting was canceled due to illness and will be rescheduled. The next Board Governance meeting agenda will include the following: a debriefing of the board retreat, reviewing of the superintendent's contract, board staff evaluations, board consultant. A Board Governance Committee of the whole meeting was held September 15th to discuss board goals and the superintendent's evaluation tool. These items were also discussed at the retreat held on September 20th. Everyone should have a copy of the superintendent's evaluation tool, and I would seek a motion. Actually, I would ask for someone to make a motion to accept the superintendent's evaluation tool.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Brennan, seconded by Commissioner Powell. We've had this discussion both at our retreat last Saturday and also at our board meeting, board meeting of the whole, committee meeting of the whole on September 15th. So we discussed this thing to death. But if there's anyone else that wants to discuss it further, I'll entertain those discussions now. Thank you. Hearing none, I'll ask for the vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Washington, for reminding me of that report. So that does include all of our board reports. We'll now move on to the consideration of resolutions. And as I was saying before, everyone, all of our board members get these resolutions 2 weeks in advance. We submit questions to the administration, and we get answers. Also, we should note also that a lot of these resolutions have gone through the Finance Committee, so they've been vetted through the Finance Committee, and they come from the Finance Committee with recommendations for approval. And we also hold study sessions prior to the board meeting to also discuss these resolutions. I say that so that way everyone can understand that when we going through these resolutions, they can understand that a lot of work and questions went into these resolutions. And I thank my colleagues and I thank the administration for answering the questions in a timely manner, and my colleagues for taking the time to ask the detailed questions on these resolutions. So with that said, we would first move to the first block of 2008-2009 resolutions, resolutions 204 through 244, which are human resources resolutions. These are human resources resolutions, so any of these questions need to be general questions related to human resources. If they are about a specific individual, we will have to move into executive session. With that said, is there a motion to approve resolutions 204 through 244?
So moved.
Moved by Vice President White. Is there a second?
Second.
seconded by Commissioner Campos. Any comments or questions around resolutions 204 through 244? Hearing none, all those in favor of resolutions 204 through 244, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The ayes have it. Resolutions 264 and 266 are also human resources resolutions. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner White, seconded by Commissioner Powell. Is there any discussion around 264 and 266?
Yes, Mr. President.
Yes.
I just wanted to, although she's not here, I wanted to recognize Commissioner Elliott for having proposed, I believe this was her idea, what is Resolution 264 that deals with cafeteria aids, also known as lunch aids. And I think this is a pretty significant moment for this board and perhaps might have gone unnoticed. Usually we are moved to give pay increases as a result of collective bargaining negotiations. These particular group of employees are not represented by a union. Isn't that right, Superintendent?
Yes.
And yet the board on its own, as a result of a recommendation made by Commissioner Elliott, decided that they were underpaid. And yet these employees were frontline employees. They deal with our kids. They deal with behavioral issues. They support these kids. And we really perhaps had missed an opportunity to recognize good people for the good work that they did. And I don't know if Commissioner Elliott would have said anything about it, but this 3.95 increase is a deserved increase. And I think the board, you know, we got to toot our own horn on occasion. I think we did the right thing this time. And without anybody pointing a barrel down our necks, we said this is the right thing to do, and we did it. And I'm very proud to be a part of a board that would make that kind of decision. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner White. Any other comments around resolutions 264 and 266? Hearing none, all those in favor of 264 and 266, please say aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. We'll now move on to educational facilities, resolutions 245 through 251, and I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Moved by Vice President White, seconded by Commissioner Powell. Any questions, comments, concerns around resolutions 245 through 251, educational facilities?
Yes, Mr. President. Just a quick note. With respect to Resolution 258, both Commissioner Campos and I presented to the administration questions regarding this particular budgetary expenditure, and it was regarding the Center for Youth Services. And I guess if I'm allowed, this 258, I believe it is. It's Center for Youth Services. Perhaps I have the number wrong. Is that right? Yeah. Mr. President, if you could ask the superintendent to perhaps give us some assurances, and I know what his answer is going to be, but
Point of order?
That's not in the,
Which resolution are we voting?
this is the resolution that deals with the
258.
Center for Youth Services. I
Right,
thought
no,
it was
but
258.
it is-
that's
now,
that's
which-
outside the range. We're on
Yeah, what do we-
245 to 251.
Oh, I'm sorry. I
Yeah,
got a little ahead of
245.
myself.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Okay, that's fine. We'll get to that in a second.
Thanks.
245 through 251, educational facilities. Any other comments or questions around 245 through 251? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, the ayes have it. 252, yes.
Could I ask that Resolution 260 be severed?
Commissioner Powell requested 260 be severed. Is there an objection to 260 being severed? All right, it's severed. 260 is severed. 252 through 263, with the exception of 260. Can I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Moved by Vice President White, seconded by Commissioner Campos. Questions, comments, and concerns around 252 through 263, with the exception of 260?
All right. Now I can go, right?
Yep, ask that question.
Again, I noted that Commissioner Campos and I had asked questions regarding this particular resolution that involves the Center for Youth Services. And I think I know the answer to this question, but I want it just repeated again. Eventually, the administration will go into a mode where it will be able to present the work product or the success of these particular contracts. In other words, there will come a time where we will know whether the Center for Youth Services is giving us exactly what we are paying for.
Mr. Superintendent?
Sure, absolutely. And this program specifically deals with the I'm Ready program. It is always our intention to make sure that vendors are always, we have measurements for progress. And in this case, really is about the recidivism. Many kids are actually coming back. And the work belongs to the two of us, belongs to the CBO as well as the school district. But we wanted to have the services of a group of individuals or an organization that really has done quite a bit of good work in the district around suspended students. So this was a way of adding wraparound services beyond the academic portion, in other words, of the I'm Ready program. But it is always our intent to begin to take a look at the kinds of metrics and measures that we have for our employees as well as those we are paying to support us.
Yeah, I just would note that, you know, you hear a lot of great anecdotal stories about this Center for Youth Services. Vicky Govia School, I know, had the benefit of their services there. But I'm wondering, will the administration get into a routine of presenting regular annual reports on the success of these kinds of programs? Because as I think as Commissioner Campos pointed out, this is, I think, quote, a lot of money when you add it all together. Not this particular program itself, but I think we give the Center for Youth Services
900, close to $1 million.
almost $1 million.
I think that's what it was.
It's
something like
comprehensively, it's a lot of money. So is there a plan for presenting regular reports either to QA or to the full board about how they're meeting their benchmark?
The answer is yes. Now, I would also say that the Center for Youth gets quite a bit of private donations that subsidize what we actually pay for their services. And the second is that their data is more than anecdotal, actually. We do have other agencies where that's anecdotal, but when it comes to the Center for Youth, we actually can provide substantial data to show, one, the number of reduced out-of-school suspensions, the number of kids who return in schools like School 45 and others around the district. They have not been as successful in the second as they are in the elementary, but the fact is that we do have hard numbers that I'm sure the center can provide as well as us. But it is our goal, again, to look at all that we do in terms of contractual as well as programmatic pieces of the district and provide some numbers. We are right now in the midst, if I may expand on the question, on the answer, I should say, in looking at the contract for excellence and everything that we're doing and laying a set of metrics and data behind that. Once we are done, I think, with our accountability pieces, you'll be able to get that online on a regular basis. And I can provide examples for you, perhaps a Q&A next time that we talk.
Thank you.
Follow-up question, Mr. President?
Yes, Commissioner Powell.
Is the program, the project, I'm Ready program, is that outlined in our program-based budgeting section of our budget book? And if not, is there an intention to amend our budget to put the I'm Ready program in a program-based budgeting mode?
I believe it was part of the amendment before June as well as in the Contract for Excellence document.
Yes. Thank you. Any other questions?
I just want to clarify to say when a program is outlined in program-based budgeting, it comes with a cycle of reviewing metrics. It does take a long time. This being the first year, we won't actually see metrics for 2 years until 2 years from now, or 2 years from budget review.
I'm sorry, Mr. President, but just to sort of follow up on that. So in the case of Center for Youth Services, they've been under contract with the district for at least 1 year. I know that because they were at 45. Was a metrics presented for their past activity?
If it wasn't named as a program, the I'm Ready is being introduced as a new program, therefore it's going in program-based budgeting. But I'm not sure about the previous contract.
Yeah. Would you know, Jean-Claude, if it had gone through that cycle that Commissioner Powell had described?
Again, we have Center for Youth in a different number of schools and programs, right. So it would depend on where you're looking for it. This one, again, is brand new. And in terms of looking at the goals for long-term suspension, and again, it may be difficult to disaggregate looking at the work that belongs to the district and the work that the center is actually doing, because it is a collaboration of two different entities coming together. But the overall results in the reduction in long-term suspensions should prove that the program is effective. Again, the entire I'm Ready program, and that would include the components from Center for Youth. It's not all. I guess it's sort of hard to say, we're going to pull this piece out and say this piece had this much impact, versus looking at the entire program as a whole and see what effect it had on reducing the number of long-term suspensions. The goal with the center in looking at the kinds of services it's going to provide is to reduce the number of kids who come back as long-term suspended students. That, I guess, is the metric you can be able to pull and say, well, that you can attach to the Center for Youth. It's never going to be black or white, because some of the work belongs to the teachers and counselors who are part of our staff who work with the center in everything that we do around I'm Ready. Does that make sense?
And again, I apologize, Mr. President, but I think this is an important dialogue. I mean, when you start talking about spending this kind of money, and perhaps you did answer my question, perhaps I just have jet lag, but I just want to make sure that we get to the point as a district where if we're giving somebody $1 million, there's a specific set of deliverables without regard to who else is working with them. I understand what you're saying. They often do not control the destiny of the entire program. But if we're giving somebody $1 million, there ought to be a specific set of deliverables, a certain set of expectations. And on top of that, I guess my question would be, is there a system for an annual review of whether someone meets their benchmarks or not?
The short answer is yes, but the long answer, I guess, might be depends on the program. Some you can measure annually, something multi-years to be measured. In the case of the Center for Youth, certainly we can provide metrics and data at the end of the school year to see kids who are long-term suspended now, if they came back during the school year. But again, if those children come back next year, so you always have to be careful measuring apples to apples. But the long and short of it is that we expect that the numbers of long-term suspended students to be reduced, as well as, of course, providing a quality program for kids who in the past receive only 2 hours of instruction a day, who are not part of a full-day program. So as a second set of measures. And the reason we chose the Center for Youth, if I may, is the fact that they have a track record of working with students who are showing these kinds of behaviors.
And if I can just add real quick, under the responses, on page 3 of 9, it shows that the program goals include reducing the number of repeat suspensions, increasing attendance for program participants, and increasing achievement for program participants by reducing the number of failed courses and increasing credits earned toward graduation. So there's set goals, and then by the end of the year, the goal is to see, okay, where did we end up? I would think.
Absolutely.
I would hope.
In this case, too, we don't exactly have baseline information because the first time we're doing this. So in fact, having kids in school all day is already showing a measurable impact. The last piece of metric that's not listed here we can actually look at the number of kids who perhaps were long-term suspended and were involved in police activity in the city. So working with the police chief, we might be able to even make that connection as well, too.
Thank you. Anything else around resolutions 252 through 263 with the exception of 260? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor of 252 through 263 with the exception of 260, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions?
I abstain, Mr. Chairman, on Resolution 256 and 258.
Okay, and your reason for abstaining?
256, I'm an adjunct faculty at MCC, and 258, my wife sits on the board of Center for Youth.
Thank you so much. Madam Clerk, have you captured those abstentions? Thank you. We'll vote on number 260 separately. Number 260 separately is a $161,495.18 for scholarships for the Edison campus. Is there a motion to accept 260?
So moved.
We're not going to take the money? Come on.
No.
Moved by Commissioner Campbell. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Vice President White. Discussion around Resolution 260.
Yes, Mr. President.
Yes.
The reason I asked us to have this conversation separately is, first let me ask, the scholarships would be scholarships for post-secondary education, is that correct?
we don't have all, I don't have all the details on exactly the wishes of the donor. The one thing I believe we discussed during the Q&A around the resolutions was to move the money from our system here and place it at the community foundation so that's used appropriately.
Well, that's really the heart of my question is, having tried to endow a scholarship and house it here in the school district, I would have strongly urged against that. And if the Rochester Area Education Foundation had existed when it started, I would have seen to it that the money went directly there. I don't want anyone to think that I don't want to see this happen, but if it's possible to amend this resolution with caveats that opportunity, the first opportunity to transfer the funds to the Rochester Area Education Foundation for stewardship, that would be my wish.
Well, I would just say that we had this long discussion in the study session, and that was something that the superintendent is already ahead of us on. He's already talking to the Rochester Area Community Foundation because we have Gates money over at that foundation already. So Commissioner Williams, I think, raised this point. I also raised this point that you know, we really don't want to be in the business of being stewards of scholarship money. So.
Well, I guess if there's a general understanding amongst my colleagues that that there will be a follow-on resolution to transfer the funds to the Rochester Area Education Foundation, I might at this point in time say that it is my goal to transition existing scholarships there as well. And if we support that action, the action on this particular fund, that I can ask for your support on a similar transfer.
Those were my sentiments exactly at the study session. Commissioner Williams?
Well, just want to point out, it's one of the discussions that we had at the
study session
was that, because it's not so much has to do with the scholarship, but the fact that this was a request makes it a whole different ballgame in terms of our fiduciary responsibilities. And I think that's something that the General Counsel was looking into. Okay.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments around that? But above all, I want to say thank you to Willard Pruitt for donating these scholarships to our students. Very greatly appreciated. So often we hear people beating down the Rochester City School District, and it's something popular to do in this town. Sometimes I think folks don't want us to succeed. It's good when we actually have people who are trying to help us to succeed, and I hope that the media covers that. Any other questions or comments around this? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The ayes have it, and again, thank you to Mr. Pruitt for, and his family, for his estate, his family, for that donation. We will now move on to resolutions 265 and 267 under budget. We'll entertain a motion to approve 265 and 267.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Williams. In discussion around 265 through 267? All those in favor of approving 265 and 267, please say aye.
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 The ayes have it. The resolution is approved.
Thank you.
We'll be watching very closely this 58 school expansion, and we look forward to updates and also a 99.9% graduation rate.
Child, are you going to split into pieces?
I know, yeah. Yes, unfinished business from previous meetings. Let me first start with any other discussion around the responsible bidder policy. I'll just add a thank you to Commissioner White for bringing this up. To me, I think it's really a no-brainer and something that's not too difficult for us to do. But I wanted to open it up to any other discussion around the responsible bidder policy, Commissioner White, I know you spoke earlier about it. I don't know if there's anything else you want to add.
No, nothing further. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anything else? Commissioner Williams, Powell, Campos, Brennan?
Nope.
Anything else? Okay, good.
Except that it's actually has been sort of difficult for us to get it done, but
Yeah.
The only thing is, you know,
All
a
could-
couple other cases before we had these no-brainer resolutions that we have had a habit of
good
putting
things
off.
come to those who wait.
Yeah, but we won't put this one off.
I just want to say that I'm sorry that the discussion about getting it onto the agenda took longer than the actual conversation and discussion, but I think it is a testament to how obvious a hole it fills that there isn't much to say to add to it.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Let me thank the Policy Committee for this next discussion item that we have here. Policy 5300, the Code of Conduct. Commissioner Brennan.
I don't know if you'll want to thank me or not, by the time we're done. But no, you have had copies of the Code of Conduct. I think the board has had multiple copies given to them previously. Before I run my mouth, I'd actually like to hear what everybody else has to say, and then I'd have a question actually to direct to administration about this.
Okay. You want to ask your question of administration?
I could, if no one
Yep,
else
go
has
ahead.
anything else to say about this. No, I know that one of the concerns about the Code of Conduct for a long time, which administration tried to address, and I wanted to give them an opportunity, which they tried to address to the input that they had with this, is the issue of the fairness of enforcement of standards within all of the student bodies, you know, in our district. And I believe there's been specific efforts to, and you have mentioned that yourself, and I wanted to give the superintendent a chance to expand on that if he could.
Sure. One of the things that, I guess, a number of different things we're trying to do around policy, especially Board of Education policy, is to ensure, one, that our employees are aware of them, and number two, that we are falling in line and in compliance. One of the things that I guess at times makes me crazy is that we have a policy against cell phones, for instance, in schools. Yet, if you walk into many of our schools, you see kids carrying cell phones. And it's something that I'm beginning to see principals actually beginning to confiscate and take cell phones. I mean, there are, again, sort of other issues that pop up when we lose cell phones, when we lose kids' iPods, etc. So there are a number of things that we need to do, including giving receipts to students and being liable if we lose the equipment. But there is a general push now to create a set of documents, really one sort of massive document, and we have a draft in place that will align to support the Code of Conduct, including being specific around infractions and consequences. All that it's been written is not being edited by and being reviewed by legal and a number of folks here at Central Office. We're hoping to roll this out to principals at the October meeting. We've had a series of small group meetings around suspension. Again, in terms of making sure people really understand what the code does. There are some challenges making sure that we align not only to the policy, but to save, as well as the sort of the practicality of the implementation of some of this. But so far, we've been able to manage quite well in making sure that we align our documents to the Code of Conduct. But there's a lot of work being done around creating a document that will support discipline and conduct in general across the district for adults and for children.
Yeah, I just want to say that I think the biggest, I'm always amazed when people say, you know, I think one of the most important things we need to do is make people aware that we have a code of conduct, because people forget that, and they need to understand that. People say, why don't you have a dress code in your school? We have a dress code. Your pants aren't supposed to be hanging off your butt when you go to schools. The issue is that the leadership in the buildings need to understand they need to enforce what we have on the books. This is as simple as enforcing what we have. I think we got an email from someone that said, you know, they went to a school and the kids were talking on their cell phone in class. Well, they shouldn't have the cell phones in class because we have policy saying that they shouldn't have that. Same thing with hats. Same thing with bandanas. It's a matter of enforcement in our individual buildings, and I think that's the challenge. And I make no bones about it. When I visit schools, if I see a kid with their pants down, you better believe I'm pulling them up. So.
And Commissioner, if I may as well, one of the things that we're looking to do, and I charged our new general counsel with this, was to begin to take a look at our district policy regulations, as well as the Board of Education policies, and put that in a searchable form online. As you can see, we're beginning to change our website. and to not only allow employees, but also the public to be able to go online and see exactly what in search and see what exists and what does not exist. And in addition to all of this, beginning the training of principals around our rules and regulation. And we've been looking at sort of processes to put in place where new employees can sign on, see a video on harassment or whatever it is. The moment they sign on to watch this, we've got a record of them seeing and understanding. This way we can say, you know about this policy, you violated the policy, and we're going to look for your termination. Or make sure that people are supported and understand exactly what exists and what does not exist in the district.
Does the receipts for property process exist right now?
No, it doesn't. Many schools, I'm not sure if all schools, with my experience thus far in different schools, the answer is no. Okay. And it's something that I've talked to my chiefs about, making sure they're pushing to their individual cohorts or clusters, making sure that when they confiscate property, that they have to provide the student with a receipt.
That strikes me as a simple, solvable solution to a really pretty serious problem. It would be appalling. You know, we talk about engendering respect for authority, and that's part of having a code of conduct that works too. And if you're a student and your iPod or your cell phone's been confiscated, and then you don't get it back, I can't think of anything that would engender more contempt, actually, for authority on the part of a student that was caught up in that kind of a process. And it's a simple thing, really, for us, it would seem to me, for us to do.
I mean, it's a great point. I'll tell you that came to life for me at a leadership meeting with Sarah and her group downstairs, where one student asked to talk to me privately and made me aware that her iPod was confiscated. She goes, I knew I shouldn't have had it in school, but now I can't get it back because no one seems to have it. The principal really quickly stepped up and actually found the funds and reimbursed the child for the iPod. But the question that came back was, well, how many of our schools do this and don't provide receipts to students? Make sure that there is sort of accountability on both ends, on the children and as well as the adult side.
The student, Mr. Superintendent, probably could have got that iPod back if they went to ebay.com, because that's probably where it was. Commissioner White.
I was just going to say, by way of example, today I became aware of something that happened at one of our schools, and I think, Mr. Superintendent, you know what I'm referring to. But the response to that incident was swift and certain, and I think that will develop the kind of respect for the code of conduct on both sides. I got to tell you, I was extremely impressed with this particular situation and how we responded as a district. It was nothing dramatic. There's no reason for anybody to inquire, but I was very impressed. And I think what will happen is people will get the message that we're serious about our code of conduct, and the response in that particular situation might make the student community think, hey, they're serious about everybody. The rules apply to everybody. So I want to congratulate you. I thought that was, your staff did an excellent job, and I was extremely impressed on how that whole situation evolved today.
Thank you. Any other comments around the code of conduct, questions around the code of conduct? We will vote on the code of conduct at the next board meeting. The code of conduct also extends to district staff, too, so make sure you read that code of conduct and behave. Board members, too. So, except for behind closed doors. No, I'm kidding.
No.
Board members, too. It extends to board members. So anything else on the code of conduct? Okay, hearing none. I'll close out unfinished business from previous meetings. We will vote on a responsible bidder in the code of conduct at our October board meetings. It still seems so strange saying October. Under new business, any new business to come before the board? Commissioner Campos.
I just very quickly wanted to make a motion to change the name from QA to Excellence in Student Achievement. It's something that we brought up in new business and also we voted on in quality assurance.
You're making the motion?
Yeah.
I'll second it.
Thank you.
Okay, any discussion on the motion to change the name of the Quality Assurance Committee to the, say the name again?
Excellence in Student Achievement.
To the Excellence in
That's what we're about.
Excellence in Student Achievement Committee, AKA the Student Achievement Committee. Any discussion around that? Commissioner Brennan?
Point of order. First of all, I fully support this motion, but I'm a little confused about one thing. Is there not a requirement that we suspend the rules in order to do this because it didn't proceed from the policy committee, as I recall, to my regret. Yeah.
Well, I do know that Commissioner Campos brought it under new business at last month's board meeting and said that she would come back and make a motion at this board meeting. I'd have to check the minutes
Would that fulfill the requirement?
Given notice.
Yeah, we've
Okay.
been given notice from her that she would do that.
Okay. Just want to make sure we're
New
covered.
business,
Okay.
Commissioner Powell represent.
If it's not in the minutes, I would agree that
Right.
we received notice,
Right.
and that, in fact, President Evans committed to actually putting it on the agenda.
Oh, yeah, it's under policy.
Yep,
Okay.
Yeah.
so there it is. Any other,
Yes, Mr. President.
yes, Commissioner Powell?
As you well know, I object to this, and I'll tell you again why. For 6 years, Bohan Vargas referred to the Quality Assurance Committee as the Quality Assurance for Student Achievement. It didn't require a name change. He just called it that, and continued to call it that for the whole 6 years that we operated under that set of bylaws. So I feel that it's certainly your prerogative to call it whatever you want. I just don't understand why we need to put that into the bylaws.
And if I can just
Yes,
say,
Commissioner Campos, response?
just feel it's something super simple, and it's not to take a lot of time, but with quality assurance, it's a very corporate term, and it refers to widgets, whereas really we're looking at quality assurance to ensure student achievement. And so it's just being consistent with our message.
Thank you. Any other discussion around quality assurance for student achievement? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed?
No.
Any abstentions? Okay, it is 5-1. We have 2 speakers addressing an agenda item. You will have 3 minutes. When I call your name, please come up to the podium. First up is Inez Burns. Is Ms. Burns here? Inez? Is Inez Burns in the house? Please wave your hand. Okay. And is our good friend Mr. Ron Ring here? My weekend is ruined. Ron Ring's not here. Wow. Okay, that ends our speakers list. I will move on to the announcements of next meetings. The board business meeting, next meeting will be October 23rd at 6:30 p.m. Is that Hispanic Heritage Month? Next month? Next month?
Yeah. It's already started.
No, I mean our celebration. Is our Hispanic Heritage celebration October? Okay, and we also have our Hispanic Heritage celebration, I believe, at 5:30? 5 o'clock. 5 o'clock. Okay, 5:30 program for Hispanic Heritage Month, October 23rd. Please refer to the board's website for updates and additional meetings. Motion to adjourn. All those motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. We stand adjourned.